Imagine waking up one morning and your life savings are gone. Factories are silent, farms are dust, and families are torn apart by hunger. By 1933, nearly 15 million Americans were unemployed. Children fainted in classrooms from starvation, while once proud businessmen sold apples on street corners just to survive. This was not a nightmare, it was reality. The Great Depression, America's darkest decade, reshaped the nation and left scars that never fully healed. Join us as we uncover the Great Depression, America's darkest decade. And don't forget to subscribe for more hidden chapters of history. The Roaring '20s had promised endless prosperity. Jazz filled the air, skyscrapers pierced the clouds, and Wall Street boomed with wild optimism. Ordinary Americans believed the good times would never end. But on October 29, 1929, known forever as Black Tuesday, the stock market crashed. Billions vanished in hours. What began as a financial collapse spiraled into an economic catastrophe that swallowed the entire nation. Factories shuttered, farms failed as dust storms swept across the Great Plains. Families lost homes, banks closed their doors, and hunger stalked the streets. Breadlines stretched for blocks, while children wore shoes made of cardboard. The Depression was not just about money. It was about survival, dignity, and endurance in the face of despair. But behind the misery lay stories of resilience, courage, and the fight to rebuild a broken America. The early years were the darkest. Banks failed one after another, over 9,000 across the country. Millions who had entrusted their savings to the system woke up penniless. Unemployment skyrocketed to nearly 25%. Men wandered cities, carrying signs that read, "Willing to work, any job." Some abandoned their families, ashamed they could no longer provide. Shantytowns, sarcastically called Hoovervilles, sprang up on the edges of cities, built from scrap wood, tin, and cardboard. In the countryside, disaster piled on disaster. The Dust Bowl ravaged the Great Plains, turning once fertile farms into wastelands. Winds carried black clouds of dust that blotted out the sun, choking livestock and burying entire towns. Farmers, desperate and broken, migrated west in search of survival, their journeys immortalized by John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. Yet amid the despair, sparks of resilience burned. Families shared meager meals, churches, and charities struggled to feed the hungry, and voices demanded change. Protest movements grew louder, calling for government action. But President Herbert Hoover insisted recovery was just around the corner, and hope seemed distant. Then came a new voice, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. In 1933, with the nation on its knees, Roosevelt took office, promising a new deal for the American people. His words, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," offered light in the darkness. But even Roosevelt's New Deal could not erase the pain overnight. Recovery was slow, uncertain, and bitterly contested. Still, it gave Americans something they had lost, hope. But the decade would test them again, this time on a global stage. By the late 1930s, the Depression had reshaped every corner of American life. Families clung to survival, art and music echoed the pain of the common man, and politics transformed under pressure. Then came the storm gathering in Europe. As Nazi Germany rose and war erupted overseas, America's factories found new life in producing weapons, ships, and supplies. The very industry that had collapsed now roared back with purpose. It was war, not policy alone, that finally dragged America out of the Depression. Millions found work in defense industries, while soldiers marched into history. The cost of recovery was immense, but the Depression had already left its mark. A generation scarred by hunger, hardened by struggle, and forever changed. When the Great Depression ended, America was no longer the same nation it had been in the 1920s. The era of unchecked optimism was gone. In its place stood a country more cautious, but also more united in the belief that government had a role to play in protecting its people. The New Deal reshaped the American state, introducing programs like Social Security and unemployment insurance. The Dust Bowl migration reshaped the West, changing culture and politics for decades. Above all, the Depression taught a lesson that echoes today. Prosperity can vanish in an instant, and survival requires both resilience and compassion. It remains America's darkest decade, but also one of its most defining. If this story moved you, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more untold history.